An epidemic of gun violence.
We are surrounded by an epidemic of gun violence.
It's been battling an epidemic of gun violence.
The epidemic of gun violence.
Epidemic of gun violence.
The epidemic of gun violence.
The epidemic of gun violence. We can't go a day without hearing that phrase. We're constantly barraged by violence and murder on the news, and with the 24-hour news cycle we have today, it is always in front of us. It's just not the happy place that many of us grew up in the 70s, 80s, or 90s. Or is that just how we remember it? You see, several recent polls found that most Americans believe that compared to 20 years ago, violent crime and murder are way up. Mass shootings much more prevalent, and we're much less safe in general. And this is one of the core impressions that gun control advocates capitalize on. You see, if things are so out of control, we have to take drastic measures now. And they're very happy to suggest what those drastic measures might be. I recently experienced a personal example on this when I posted on social media that murder and violent crime were down. I instantly got a barrage of comments like this. People thought I was crazy, way out in left field. And then later, on a decidedly gun-friendly IV8888 video, I got this. I guess it's no surprise that people get this impression. I mean, let's face it, tragedy and violence sells, and the news focuses on it. We also have websites and reports that take an unrecognizably broad definition of mass shooting, school shooting, or gun violence to produce ridiculously inflated numbers. And these too get 24-hour news coverage. So it's no surprise that people believe that violence is increasing. But what is the reality? If you look at real data from official sources, actual counts of events, rather than small sample size extrapolated studies, you'll find there's no debate. The FBI, the CDC, the Bureau of Justice Statistics, the Department of Justice, they all agree. Violent crime as a whole, as well as murder by itself, is half what it was 20 years ago. Half. And that includes gun violence. But what about mass shootings? Surely, as that commenter posted, they're way up. Well, again, real data tells a different story. As this recent Congressional Research Service report points out, there has been a very slight rise in mass shootings over the years, but nothing approaching what people believe. Now, there are sources that greatly exaggerate the number by including mostly events that none of us would really consider a mass shooting. But using that type of definition and applying it consistently over the last 20 years, you'll actually see a sharp decrease. It's also true that there are multiple valid definitions for the term mass shooting. But no matter what definition you use, if you apply it consistently, you'll either see no increase at all or a very slight rise. For instance, using the definition in this Congressional Research Service report for public mass shooting, that is the type of event that most of us associate with the term, we see that we had 4.0 per year in the 90s, 4.1 per year in the 2000s, and 4.5 per year so far in this decade. Now, it's also worth noting that if we took out the outlying year of 2012, we would actually see lower average in this decade than in the previous two. And taking a longer view and looking at rate, that is, adjusting for population growth, we see even less rise. Now, this chart really gives perspective. It shows not only that mass shootings have seen very little rise, but it also shows that murder by firearm is at its lowest point in more than 45 years. That's right, the firearm murder rate is at its lowest point in more than 45 years. And they call this an epidemic. Was it an epidemic 45 years ago? Words have power, and the constant barrage of voices shouting epidemic is giving people a false belief, a belief that's opposite of reality. Now, the first step in solving any problem is understanding it, and misinformation and false beliefs get in the way of finding real solutions. So don't let the misinformation stand. remind people that while gun ownership and gun sales have soared since their low point in the 90s, violent crime and firearm murder have been cut in half and continue to decline. And while we're at it, one might ask, why do so many politicians and the press feel the need to deceive on this point?